Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special bulletin with all the hoopla going on in the video game industry, all the game devs and concept artists, and all the way up to community managers putting their opinions out there online and generally making it known that they're coming across as they seem to hate gamers. It's just a nonstop flood, and well, obviously, we got one new one right here with former Riot Games senior concept artist and current Easy Games art director Michael Marino. Video game developers, my God, this one floored me a little bit. Quote, have an obligation to advance social justice and diverse representation. No, they don't, Michael. That is not their obligation. The only thing they have an obligation to is the customer to provide an entertaining piece of material. Unfortunately, that seems to be the most foreign concept for quite a few of these game developers. But who is Michael Marino? Well, like I said, former Riot Games senior concept artist, moving on to job. Let's see what he got here. Claims the video game developers have an obligation. I just do not understand that statement. Some of the things going on, especially as it's surrounding Star Wars Outlaws and the desire for gamers to want attractive female protagonists in their games, but all of a sudden, if that's the case, then you just want porn, and I guess that's just something I will never understand. He starts off with this lovely response to Mark Kern, insulting him. This idiot grifter probably feigning outraged doughboy. My goodness. When you start your argument off with or your rebuttal, I guess, with an insult, well, you're already announcing that something's gotten under your skin. You're throwing names. You're slinging insults. TLDR, making the nuances of a gentler face can be real tough one in game art. That's a lie. I've played quite a few games, realistic games, and some of the female characters, quite a few of the female characters, Judy and Pan Am Palmer in Cyberpunk, there was a lot of emotion on their face. Even more recently, Eve from Stellar Blade. The parts, bits and pieces that you saw of her face in the cutscenes, you knew exactly how she felt. The animation wasn't terrible, wasn't hot dog water, much like Star Wars Outlaws. My goodness, but to try and sit there, oh, and let's blame it on lighting as well. Strawman, much? He keeps going. Case in point, when I worked, we have another one. Blaming the gamers. There was a shit fit had by gamers when we gave her a unique face, speaking of Fiora. So much of a shit fit that they caved to their demands. Well, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because when you cave to the demands of gamers, they have a tendency to throw more money at you. And honestly, as a corporation, as a company, as a developer, that is what you want. You want money. Because with money, you can make more games. You can pay people to make more games. This idea, you're insulting gamers, calling them a bunch of misogynist coomers, telling them maybe you should just go find porn and hentai and whatever. You're salting the fields, and they're just going to close their wallets and walk away. Boom. Let's see. There's Fiona. Now, I don't quite understand. This is the example that he gives with why there was a shit fit. The old one. I guess this old one on the left was the original. I don't really see a problem with that face. And I find it, I don't know. He claims there was a shit fit had by gamers and yet doesn't want to show any receipts. I always have a problem with that. Show your receipts or shut the fuck up. Blame gamers for whatever backlash, which, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, but I don't really see much of a difference. I mean, her cheeks and the shadow on her forehead. Other than that, there's really not much of a difference between these two, but I guess I just don't have the artistic eye. And of course, he claims he was pissed about it. And to be transparent, the Splash team didn't want to make the changes. Well, then don't, and, figure out what happens. There was such a small difference in the changes. I mean, I'll agree with him on that one for sure. Defending simply chiseling a woman's face who was supposed to be severe looking. Why are you yelling? Why are you so upset, Marino? Michael? But again, the argument goes back and forth, trying to defend the lighting in the game. This is not an attractive picture. This is not feminine. Did they give her a broken nose? It looks like she has a broken nose. My goodness. Comparison. This is what a lot of gamers are really talking about. The idea that, oh, it's difficult. It's difficult this, difficult that. Although the comparison between the actual actress and the character you see on the screen, regardless of how unflattering this, part of this trailer is, they look nothing alike. They really don't. I don't see it. But then when you come down here, between Cal Kestis and his voice actor, wow. I mean, down to the hair. You couldn't even give Star Wars Outlaws protagonist the same hairstyle. You definitely didn't give her the same cup size, but it is what it is. Not necessarily my main complaint. Whatever. My number one complaint with that trailer is the facial animations. They're absolutely atrocious. I mean, like, Bugthesda atrocious. What else does he go on to say? I don't mind this comparison right here, because he puts their faces side by side, and that's a pretty good lineup. So maybe, genuinely, it's the angles. Maybe he's correct. The angles in the trailer were very unflattering. Do not show the protagonist. They don't show the character in the positive light. So, sure, fine. But then, please, again, explain the facial animations, the soulless lack of any sort of change as they're speaking across the board, not just the protagonist. They were all an absolute abomination. But here's where we get to even more of the fun part. Let's see what his tweet. And back to the raw deal women get. Really, we apparently only judge them beautiful if they're a terrifyingly reductive version of themselves. No. Devoid of any facial features, pigmentation, even like blood. No, you're incorrect. That's a straw man. Everything is sanded down, and it's fucking gross. But the best part, the thing that I keep seeing going off on Twitter over and over and over again, is part of this quote. Sums it up. Like, sure, get off on whatever you get off on. But maybe gritty space war bounty hunter tale is not the format that you jerk off to. Why is the desire for an attractive female protagonist in our entertainment suddenly falling back to pornography and what we want to fap to? Is this the only argument you have for your piss poor, terrible ability to design and animate a female character? Or are you trying to defend what is coming across to be intentional uglification, defeminization of female characters in video games? There's no problem with getting the male facial features, the attractive male in a video game. The buff, burly, got that nice beard kicking. There's no problem. There's no difficulty with that. You never have to worry about lighting or anything like that. But for some reason, with the women, it's difficult. And again, like I said, it's coming across as intentional. Gamers are starting to have a problem with it more and more. And this is your defense. I'm sorry, you can't jerk off to it. Perhaps that's a more gritty context where you want to have people like real. Wait, what the fuck? Want to have people like real. Oh boy. Perhaps that's a more gritty context where you want to have people like real. Okay? Like our bug-killing mother. Oh, you were bringing up Sigourney Weaver, who is attractive, who is very attractive in the Alien movies. Interesting. Get off on whatever you want to get off on. Let's see. But I think here's where the fun starts. Later in the trailer, he stared. Oh, you can have a technical feedback, and I don't know when something looks overproduced, oversampled, oversourced. How about if it just looks like trash? It looks like trash. Gamers are having a problem with it, but no, it always comes back to you want to fap to it. But where's the fun stuff? Ah, here we go. In 2020, this is the point of this video. we get to know who Michael Marino is and how wonderful his point of view is. But this goes back to 2020. I almost said 1920. Extremely lukewarm take. As a game developer, a manufacturer of cultural content which specializes in resonance. A game developer. Cultural content. As a game developer, you are a manufacturer of entertainment. Cultural content. You have an obligation to advance social justice and diverse representation. You are not just making art. Yes, you are. You're making art. You are making entertainment. And if you fail to do so, gamers will have their opinion. They will voice it, and they will shut their wallets tight and move on to something that is entertaining. You are participating in the formation of bedrock. No, you're not. You're making a goddamn video game. You're making an entertaining story. This is not some video games. My goodness. Okay. This idea that video games are any sort of proving ground for social justice and representation. It's not. It's a proving ground for entertaining art, which is what it is. Entertaining, storytelling, character development, advancement, and sometimes it's the most basic, blow it up and give me loots. What fat loots do I have? The most basic parts of video games. Give me fat loots so I can go kill the next big thing and get fat loots. This pretentious hubris idea that you're advancing social justice and diverse representation. Honestly, put whatever the hell you want in the game. Do it. Put whatever checkbox you want to check off. Put it in the game. We don't care. Never have, never will. As long as the game's fun. I've said it, and I'm sure numerous other people have said it, and it's 100% true. We don't care as long as it's good. As long as we can sink 20, 30, 40 hours into it, even with a $70 price tag. Another thing that can be very much excused if the game is entertaining. A lost concept for people like Michael Marino. There was a time we could resort and rest on the creation of aesthetics. Sure, you still can. That time has passed. No, it hasn't. Games that are aesthetically pleasing as well as entertaining are fun. It's great. Success. As stewards and bookkeepers of artifacts, holy crap, you think entirely too highly of yourself. Both widely consumed and niche artists, writers, designers, consumed and niche artists, writers, and designers have a responsibility to wrap diversity and justice in the consumable. And that is where you are going to fail over and over, time and time again. If all you're concerned about, if the first thing on your list when developing a game, when you're creating this interactive piece of art, diversity and justice, diverse representation, all that stuff, if that's at the top of the list, you will fail because you're overly concerned about it instead of worrying about, hey, what's the story? It's diverse. Okay, what's the story? If your only answer is diverse, you fail. The pedantic and irrelevant cry of the SJW agenda is not only a tired one, well, it's tiring because it continues to happen, but one of desperate grasping of dying cultural relevance. Oh, continuously insulting your customer base. Cool. A vestigial organ of a sunsetting class of consumers. We are not consumers, we are customers. If you treat us like consumers, we close our wallets and we will no longer be customers, which don't represent the bulk of the audience. Again, wow, not knowing what the hell you are talking about. No ability to create anyway, of course. Dear Mr. Michael, going on this campaign to insult people over and over again, I mean, sure, this is back in 2020, huh? I guess we should find out what projects you're involved with and stay far, far away from them. Social justice, whether it be gender, class, race, is a prevailing wind. Are those which are inevitable. There are people who disagree. Looking around us at just the last few days makes salient the tide. Oh my goodness. Despite whatever obstacles are placed in its path, I should be reading this in a pretentious British accent. Crash against shoddy premises of institutional resistance. Ultimately, even active inclusivity is not sufficient to change fundamentally the framework in which we design. It is crucial to challenge the structure of limited awareness and institutional bias. Those assumptions must be torn down. As a follow-up, this isn't meant to be a call out to developers who don't acquiesce to movements of social progress, but as an invitation to gain awareness of a cause and see which way your audience is evolving. What have you got to lose? Money. That's what you have to lose. You have only appreciation to gain. Appreciation doesn't pay the goddamn bills, you twat. What do you have to lose by forcing a social agenda into your video games, an ideological speech message into your video games? What on earth do you have to lose? Well, considering that every time this thing happens, the game suffers, the play suffers, the story, the characters, the mechanics, all suffer from top to bottom, when all you're concerned about is cramming your social justice narrative, your ideological bullshit into the video game. Everything else suffers, and gamers will sit there and continue to wait. Every time a new title comes out, they will wait and wait for someone else that they trust to go and play the game and find out whether it's worth their hard-earned money. And more often than not, much like Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, your bullshit narrative killed that franchise, because the rumors are coming out about that one. And at least that's the most recent debacle. And Star Wars Outlaws will be the next, because I seriously doubt the gameplay and the mechanics of that game will knock anything out of the park. The only thing it will accomplish doing is shutting people's wallets nice and tight and moving on to something else that doesn't browbeat them with bullshit. But anyway, that's enough for my soapbox. Thank you for making it this far. Leave a like, leave a dislike, do all those nifty little things YouTubers beg you to do, and let me know what you think in the comments. I hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.